Chapter 1 The villain is always disobedient. 1. The continent of spirits. Remote village. Headache. He had a splitting headache, and his body felt dull, as if he had been drugged. Shang Ling barely opened her eyes. She was leaning on the firewood pile, and the cold wind from outside came in through the gap, chilling her heart. The mouse originally wanted to nibble on the fainted person in front of him, but who knew that this person suddenly woke up with a scary aura, so he backed away and waited for an opportunity. The girl raised her eyebrows, and soon, the thick rope broke, and she looked at herself in the water shadow with the help of the reflection of the water tank. The original owner is ugly, short and fat, frustrated, and has acne all over his face. Host, host. I'm here to give you the plot, hee hee. A lot of memories popped up in the girl's mind, some of which were too many, which made her head ache. Plot. This is a fantasy continent. The continent is divided into spiritual masters, prophets, alchemists, martial artists, and ordinary people. The original owner, Shang Ling, had his golden fingers taken away by the female partner Duo Ling, his luck was taken away, his appearance was robbed, his intelligence was low, and he became a fool, his appearance was destroyed, and he became fat after drinking water. Was transferred by the female lead to a human trafficker, who wanted to sell the female lead to the mountains. The female supporting role changed her name and surname, using the heroine's golden finger and appearance to reach the pinnacle of life and marry the male protagonist. The male protagonist Zhang Lin, since the female protagonist became ugly, fat, and weak, the male protagonist began to flirt with the female supporting role, ambiguous. The male protagonist doesn't care who is the real Shang Ling, he only needs a beautiful wife. After the real heroine appeared in front of the male protagonist, even if the male protagonist recognized him, he was unwilling to admit it. He punched and kicked the female protagonist, coerced and lured the female protagonist to leave him, so as not to affect his future. In order to prevent future troubles, he let the female protagonist get rid of the heroine. The girl twitched the corners of her mouth, and there was a bit of teasing in her eyes. This is a normal reaction of the male protagonist. After all, no one likes a waste plus an ugly monster, but it is a bit too much to avoid future troubles. After all, everything the male protagonist has now, but that it was given by the silly girl. The plot task requires fulfilling the wishes of the heroine, turning herself into the protagonist, and teaching the heroine a lesson. Take back all the things that the heroine took away, including the golden finger. Learn. The girl folded her hands, looked at the system in front of her with a smile, raised her eyebrows, and spoke with a bit of coldness. She just wanted to teach this kind of wolf-hearted person a lesson. Closer to home, what can I get after completing the task? The girl said casually, with a smile in her eyes. Ah, this. The system remembered that its host was a money fan. The wealth in the plane belongs to the host, provided that the host can take it away. Anyway, such a weak host can't take away much. Can. The girl nodded in satisfaction, waiting for this sentence. The book left by the previous host is useful. I have accepted the mission of the plane. She has to earn a lot of money to buy her own freedom. The girl sat cross-legged and was healing the wound on her body. She floated in the closed space for a long time, so long that she almost forgot whether she was still alive. After the system presumed to be bound, it also helped me out of the space dungeon by accident. The wilderness is overgrown with weeds. Host, what are you doing in such a place if you don't do the mission? Where are you going now? The system looked surprised, walking in the cold wind, the surroundings were gloomy, and the cemetery was creepy. Find food. I am a Piao, and a Piao's food is fierce ghosts. I will devour them. I have been in the previous world for too long, and I don't have any extra strength. Now I need to eat fierce ghosts to improve my strength, so that I can help the heroine stand up and beat the scumbag man. In a blink of an eye, Li Gui looked at Shang Ling in fear, and begged for mercy. He just went out for a walk, but who knew that he met someone he couldn't provoke. "Grandma, please forgive me." Shang Ling was indifferent, and continued to devour the ghost caught in his hand. The ghost was held in his hand, and was quickly absorbed by the bana flower on the girl's arm. The ghosts nearby were terrified. "Oh my god! Here comes an ancestor who kills ghosts without blinking an eye. Run!" The ghosts hurriedly packed up and left, and the coolness around them suddenly became much less. When there were not many ghosts, the girl slowly asked the system next to her. "The Buddha said that there are 8 sufferings in the world: birth, old age, illness, death, parting from love, resentment, remorse, not being able to ask, not being able to let go. Ghosts are caused by resentment or too much obsession in life. If they don't leave, they will damage the law. There are some ghosts who will harm innocent people in order to practice. Their existence is to destroy the law. Once the law is broken, the order of this world will no longer exist. Those ghosts I devoured, they are sinful." The system nodded thoughtfully. It felt that the power of the host was much stronger. "Did the villain appears, right there." Shang Ling followed the guidance of the system and found that person. The person was dripping with blood and seemed to be seriously injured. She was about to strangle the villain in the past, but then she thought about it. The villain and the hero had a grudge against each other, so why not take it for her own use, for her own blade, and let them kill each other? Wouldn't it be more fun? After the girl passed by, she shielded the villain behind her back, and looked at the killers in front of her with great anger. "Who are you? You dare to hinder us from doing the task? You don't know how to live or die. Brother, what are you doing so much? Just kill her." The system that followed looked blankly at the surrounding scene. A group of people moaned on the ground without illness. It scanned and found that there was no serious illness. "Host, what did you do? Why are they lying on the ground? They want to touch porcelain, want to blackmail me, and want to rob me of money and sex." The people on the ground stared at her angrily. "Robbery? Robbery? Face? Where's her face?" "System, it turns out that the host is really weak, it has to protect the host well." "Host, just leave the fight to the system in the future." "Just you? With small arms and legs, are you sure?" "System, excuse me, I don't deserve it." Shang Ling walked over and took away every purse from his waist. Unknowingly, he took a bunch of purses. "Host, why did you take their money bag?" "I am not active in making money, and I have a problem with my thinking." Shang Ling put all the money in a big money bag, and the money bag soon bulged. She walked up to the man, her eyes were indifferent and distant, and she looked down at the villain. "Want to live? Speak straight, don't beat around the bush." The young man covered his wound, and looked at Shang Ling with a cold face. "Who is this ugly monster who suddenly appeared, and what is his purpose? I can save you and make you well, but you must give me enough money." "You want to kill yourself for money?" Shang Ling looked at the boy with a smile on his face and said, "No, it's just for money. I'll give you 1,000 taels of silver." She shook her head, a little disgusted, and just wanted to get rid of herself. "I want all the property I can see under your name." Xiangxun heard it, and almost vomited blood again from anger. This ugly monster really dared to say it. "Ugly, you are a lion. You are wishful thinking. That's fine, you can rest in peace here. After you die, that thing is also unowned, and it will end up in my hands. Return." Seeing that the man was about to leave, he hurriedly yelled, "His internal organs are damaged now, the difference between him and a dead person is that he still has a breath. Why not treat a dead horse as a living horse doctor and let this person try? You come back." "I agree, you come back. There is no evidence for verbal evidence, let's make a written evidence and stamp it by the way. Black and white letters are more reliable than people." She came back with a piece of paper, and soon, the person in front of her signed it. "It turns out that your name is similar to mine." Shang Ling looked at the name on the paper, and then healed the person in front of him with the power of devouring ghosts. Let's go, leave this kind of place first, the air is relatively heavy, this place is not suitable for people to stay. Mansion. The girl wandered around, pavilions, towers, jade buildings, and carved railings. Bricks and tiles are worth a lot, and this man named Shang Yu is a master who is not short of money. The transfer is over. Asked with some heartache, she turned around for a while, and took away a lot of valuable things, and if he kept turning, he felt that he was going to be poor. No more transfers, send your people out and help me find out about Duoling and Zhonglin. I want to trouble them. If you have any news about them, let me know as soon as possible. After the girl finished speaking, she sat on the swing frame in front and swayed gently. The young man next to him was a little surprised, feeling something was wrong, and hurriedly followed. Why are you looking for these two people? As far as I know, Duoling is already a senior healer, and he relies on the spiritual guild behind him. The power of the spiritual guild should not be underestimated. Not to offend easily. And Zhonglin is a descendant of the royal family. You are walking on the land of the royal family, and you want to offend the royal family. Are you overestimating yourself? Duoling took some of my things, and Zhonglin owed me some things. I came to them just to take back my things. In the last wish of the original owner, the most obsessed is the male lead and the female partner, hoping that their evil will be rewarded with evil. It's okay if you don't help me, I can spend all my money and find someone to help me. By the way, a note is a piece of paper that uses rules. You can even get the paper of the law. I underestimated you. He smiled, his eyes flashed with anger, and the coldness in his voice was biting. Each to each other, prophets. The memory of the original owner gradually came out, and Shang too was a prophet, in other words, a short-lived ghost. Those nihilistic things are getting thinner and thinner. Too many people have been counted on him, resulting in his ridiculously short lifespan. Who the are you? Shang Tsung's eyes flashed, the corners of his mouth curled up, and he pressed towards Shang Ling step by step, with a deadly move, full of murderous intent towards the person in front of him. Short-lived ghost, are you sure you want to continue fighting with me? Shang Ling deftly dodged the moves of the person in front of him again and again, raised his head, his eyes were extremely cold, and his tone was threatening. Shang Yu stopped, he was unwilling to look at the person in front of him, he didn't even touch the other person's sleeve. This person's ability is higher than his own, and if he continues, it will only aggravate his injury. It's not up to you to help or not. Don't forget, I will help you extend the few remaining lives you have now. The girl's voice was icy cold, and she lingered on the man with a somewhat chilly gaze. Your life belongs to me, don't wish to count everything about me, because you are an ant in front of me. The man said resignedly, no matter how reluctant he was, he would not be against his own life. Shang Ling and Duoling are the same sisters. Duoling's life is not long. Not long ago, he became a zombie. Now Shang Ling is taking over some of Duoling's positions. She stood up with indifference on her face, and her voice was cold and unreasonable. Go to Shang Ling's mansion at night and ask your people to kidnap Shang Ling for me. You. This is an order, not a negotiation. After speaking, she left the mansion with some people and went outside. Outside. It was cold and windy, and it was snowing heavily. You guys take these banknotes to buy some rice, bedding, thicker clothes, find a place to put them away. You guys are going to hire bodyguards, and you guys are going to buy pens, ink, paper, and inkstones. Report the situation at the door of the inn in an hour. She walked into the inn and found a quiet place. She looked at the heavy snow outside with confusion in her eyes. She needs to do more good deeds to reduce her crimes and make that person less disaster. There will be a snowstorm in this place, and the price of firewood, rice, oil, and salt will rise too much, and there will be evil spirits invading. The cold wind blew in from outside the inn, and it felt a little cold on the body. "Don't bother that child, sit over there." She walked up to a table and talked to the little ones, making everyone around her think she was a fool. "Ugly, what are you talking nonsense about?" The man's face darkened, a little displeased, and he tightly protected his child. "Stay away from my child, you ugly bastard. Xiao Er, when beggars like this can come in your tea house, don't you want to open the door for business?" Xiao Er was a little embarrassed. This person offered a lot of money, they were too embarrassed to refuse. This is a distinguished guest. She ignored it. Those people are invisible, and those who don't know are innocent. "Are you talking to us?" "Yes, I'm talking to you." The people in front of the soul meeting can see themselves, and hurried forward one by one. "Are you a healer? You can actually see us." Those souls floated over one by one, surrounding Shangling, and those who were close to Shangling felt the chill around them became heavier, so they changed positions. "Do you have any regrets and don't want to leave? Will you help us? Line up, tell your last wish one by one, as long as it is not too much, I will help you complete it and send you to reincarnation." Healers, some are those who control the elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, and some are those who can see things that living people can't see. No matter which one they are, they all belong to spiritual masters. The female supporting role, Duoling, is also a psychic who can see things that others can't see, but she has evil intentions, delusions of improving her cultivation level, and living a long life. This time, she provoked the evil. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The villain is always disobedient. 2. Master, can you avenge me? A female spirit floated over. Her spirit was damaged, and one of her hands was missing. She looked a little disgusted. "Just tell me." Shangling looked at Ling in front of her calmly, and nodded. As long as she can reduce their resentment, she can help them, as long as it is not something harmful to the world. "My family is a woman from a brothel. Once on the way out to buy rouge powder, I accidentally offended Miss Shangling, causing Miss Shangling to lose her elixir." Miss Shangling didn't say anything at the time. The slave family thought she was a good person, but Miss Shangling asked someone to ask me out afterwards, cut off my hand in a place where no one was around, and let someone beat me to death. Let me confess, let me admit that I took the elixir. The slave family would rather die than surrender, but they couldn't resist being tortured. After I confessed, I also died. After I died, because I was unwilling, I followed Miss Shangling all the time. It was only later that I found out that the elixir was not lost at all, but she was unwilling to return it to the Lin family, so she made up a cover, and I was the scapegoat for this cover. The slave family is angry and dissatisfied, just because I am a brothel girl, and because Shangling is a member of the spiritual guild, with a noble status and unattainable status. After I died, no one believed me. They all thought I stole it. Things, smearing my reputation everywhere, sympathizing with Miss Shangling for losing the elixir. Because I was afraid of the power of the spiritual union, after my death, no one came to bury my body. That person is not, the face you see may not be real. The girl raised her eyebrows, and said the truth in a cool voice. She didn't want ghosts to be kept in the dark. Ah! Could it be that the person who killed me wasn't Miss Shangling? It shouldn't be. I have been with you for a long time. The person who sent someone to beat me to death was Miss Shangling. I must have remembered that face correctly. Gray recognizes it. The woman's face was full of confusion, and her tone was particularly surprised. Could it be that she found the wrong enemy? She recognized that face, she had always recognized that face, it was the woman who killed her. Seeing is believing, hearing is believing. You are waiting for me here at noon tonight, and I will take you to vent your anger. Shangling took a look and felt that this person was a bit out of luck. If he hadn't approached that elixir out of curiosity that day, he probably wouldn't have been framed. This person had a lot of fate and passed away early. He felt unwilling and had to resolve it before he could leave. "Thank you, master. Take this." Shang Ling drew some strange things in the air with her hands, then opened her mouth and explained to the woman in front of her. "You did a lot of good deeds during your lifetime, and you were willing to do good deeds. You have many good karmas. I drew a talisman on you to ensure that you will dissipate slowly, so that you can stay for a few more days. When you have no last wish, you will be saved." You left. "Thank you, master." The woman was overjoyed, and did not expect that good things will be rewarded with good things. Next, a man appeared. The man was so thin that only skin and bones remained. It seemed that he had been hungry for a long time before his death. "I don't have any last wishes, I just stay in the world because I don't trust my mother and my son." "Go on." She took out her cup, poured a cup of tea, and listened. "My mother and my son, I go to see them every day, they don't have enough to eat and don't wear warm clothes outside the city gate. I hope you can send them some food and clothes so that they can survive this cold winter." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The villain is always disobedient. 3. Shang Ling raised his head to look at this person, and found that this person was a kind person, but he was too dull, and his personality was easy to be used by others. No, because he believed the stranger's words, he ended up with no bones left. Shang Ling looked at the time. It was time for those servants to come back. The things they bought should be able to resolve some resentment. "Come with me, I will bring some things there later, you will lead the way. I will give these things to your mother and your son, and I will arrange for them to be servants in the mansion with a kind heart." He stood up and walked towards the door. Sure enough, the servants bought a lot of rice, as well as clothes and bedding for the winter, but the man who bought the pen, ink, paper and inkstone has not come back yet. "Young master, we bought back what you asked us to buy." She is now disguised as a woman, the mask has not been bought back, and now she has an ugly face. "You guys go to the yamen and some thugs, then go to the gate of the city, set up a tent, set up pots, do good deeds, and give these things to those who need them. If anyone robs and beats them in public, take them down and tie them up. Wait for me to come back. Let me handle it." "Yes." Soon, they left. Shang Ling went to a nearby stall. The uncle who sold the sesame seed cakes was wearing very thin clothes and was shivering from the cold. The sesame seed cakes in the burden were tightly covered, and there was still some heat. "How many pancakes are there?" "There are still many." He opened the lid, and soon the sesame seed cakes appeared, and the color of the sesame seed cakes was not bad. "I want all these biscuits." Hearing this sentence, the uncle was stunned, and checked again and again whether he heard it wrong. "Ah! All of them? Everything, how much?" He looked at the extremely ugly man in front of him in surprise, not sure if he was kidding himself. He lowered his head and counted. There were more than 20 sesame seed cakes, and it was getting dark, so he had to go back. "A sesame seed cake is 5 yuan. If you buy more, I will give you a cheaper price. These sesame cakes will cost you 80 yuan. I have them all, pack 6 sesame seed cakes for me, and give the rest to those beggars who fainted from hunger on the road. Be careful before sending them, and don't be robbed by them." She directly put down a tael of silver and told the man. When the man saw the money, his hands and feet became more agile. "Thank you, benefactor, thank you, benefactor. Now the New Year's goods are available." She looked up and saw that the white sky was a little dark. The snow fell on her shoulders and it took a long time to melt. She felt that there was some trouble this time, and the snow was getting bigger and bigger. The porridge might not be of much use. Appreciating plum blossoms, drinking wine and having fun in the city, while wailing and dying bones outside the city. Doling, is this what you want to see? From the memory of the original owner, in order to be able to take away the golden finger of the heroine without being punished, Dueling did not hesitate to let innocent people suffer at the cost of natural disasters. If she wanted to get back the golden finger of the original owner, she had to make the disaster less severe this time. There is an old grandfather in that golden finger. That old grandfather is hard to distinguish between good and evil. He pursues longevity, and it will always be a disaster to stay. Benefactor, it's ready. Yet. She took the bag and quickly disappeared into the street. Outside the city, in the wilderness. Gong gong, the front is where my family lives. It's right in front. I often go to see them, but if they don't look at me, I can't help them. I can only watch them cry. Go over quickly, I'm afraid they won't be able to hold on. Shang Ling quickened his pace, and soon arrived at the place the man said. In the ruined temple, the old man was holding the child. The two were very yellow and thin, and they huddled in the corner. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The villain is always disobedient. 4. Grandfather, please save them. They are innocent. After I died, I did not do any evil, let alone harm the world. Please save them. You saved them. I promise to obey your orders and leave. When relatives meet each other, there are two lines of tears. The one who looked at the helpless relatives in front of him felt a little sad. He didn't take good care of them when he was alive, but he could only watch them suffer when they died. Shang Ling walked up and handed the things he bought to the two people in front of him. The hungry faces of the two people didn't have the energy to speak, so they just looked at Shang Ling eagerly. Eat, I am entrusted to deliver food and clothes to you. The two of them were surprised, but they couldn't hold back their hunger. Soon, they took the food and started to gobble it up. Thanks. They ate very quickly and did not forget to thank them. Seeing this scene, Floating Ling was helpless. His mother and children almost starved to death because of his departure. He is really not a thing. Cough cough cough. Drink some water. Shang Ling handed them some water, and the two continued to eat, as if they wanted to eat all the food they hadn't eaten these days. Beautiful brother, why did you give us food? The child looked up at Shang Ling. He was not afraid of the scars on Shang Ling's face at all. On the contrary, he felt that the person in front of him was very kind. Your father asked me to give it to you. He asked me to tell you that you should take good care of yourself in the future. My father? Where has my father gone, beautiful brother, can you tell me? I miss my father hasn't come back for a long time, does he want me and grandma anymore? Shang Ling didn't hide anything either, she directly told the person in front of her, people return to the Lois, Yin and Yang are separated, if you can't see him, he will leave the world soon and go where he should go. Father, woo woo woo. Son, why did you leave, how did you let us live? They kept howling, crying, resenting, and mourning, but these didn't affect Shang Ling at all, she watched coldly. Man dies like a lamp goes out, grief is of no avail. She walked to the corner, and turned towards the spirit with a cold voice, I will let people take them in, do you have any regrets? Grandfather, I have no regrets. Soon, the spirit in front of him dissipated, he regretted it, and there was no reason to stay. You rest here first, later, someone will pick you up and leave, you take the food and clothes. After she finished speaking, she disappeared like a gust of wind. Grandma, was that person a fairy just now? The little boy was overjoyed and asked his grandma. Maybe. She lowered her head and looked at the brand new clothes and food on the ground, feeling very warm. She thought it was a dead end, but she didn't expect that a fairy would descend from the sky to help them. Shang Ling quickly returned to the mansion of Shang Yu, and she asked the housekeeper to send someone to take the people from the ruined temple back to settle down. Where is Shang Yu now? The butler shook his head with a look of incomprehension. The young master never came back after he left. Don't know? Go down. She counted her fingers and found that Shang Sun had been tricked by someone, and now she was thrown in an underground cage. It's really not a worry-free guy. I asked you to find someone to kidnap Shangling. Why did you provoke the male lead? Could it be that you hate yourself for living for a long time? Shang Ling said indifferently, feeling that the villain is not very obedient, and the hero is protected by the halo of heaven. If he goes rashly, he will definitely stumble. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The villain is always disobedient. 5. Shang Ling wore a mask and went to the dungeon where the villain was held. Dungeons. She made herself invisible to the people around her, and walked in openly. She walked in front of the villain, who was chained to a cross with iron chains and had many scars on his body, making him very embarrassed. The male lead stood aside, whipping the villain with a whip soaked in salt water. Zhang Lin, don't go too far. He gritted his teeth and hated it, never thought that there was Zhang Lin's person in the mansion, and there was something wrong with the tea he drank unintentionally. Xianyu, since I let you see my face, do you think I will let you go? He was dressed in black, with an extraordinary bearing between his brows, but there was a bit of haze in his eyes, and he looked at the person in front of him with a strong anger. Why? We have no grievances, and even if there is a hatred, it is not a deep hatred. Why do you treat me like this? Really? Are you sure you didn't offend me? God's domain, there are constant disasters in the world, the people are in dire straits, and the smoke is everywhere. It's all because of an adopted son of the national teacher's mansion. If you want to eradicate it, you have to cut the grass and root it out. After hearing this, Shang Yi widened his eyes, never thinking that what he calculated last time would be known by this person. I didn't tell the king. After he figured it out, he felt that there was something strange, so he didn't plan to tell the monarch. Although he had some problems with the national teacher's office, he couldn't say the words of cutting grass and roots. Do you think I will believe you? I originally wanted to kill the grass and roots on your way out, so that no one would know, but who knew, you were rescued by someone and came back alive. I only told Shang Ling this sentence. Did Shang Ling tell you, didn't I? It seems that you are not stupid and hopeless. Shang Ling is now my person, and also a member of the national teacher's mansion. At this moment, she appeared in front of them, wearing a mask, looking at Shang Ling indifferently. It's you. Who are you? Stop playing tricks on me. The corners of her mouth were raised, with a faint smile, and her voice was cold. She walked to the front of the cupper, protecting the cupper. I am a man from the abyss, can you believe it? With a bit of hostility between her brows, she raised her head and looked at Zhang Rin. The sword that Zhang Rin was pointing at her fell to the ground, making a clang, clang, clang sound. Why, I'm just scared. You should pay back what you owe to someone. Who are you? He took a few steps back, his voice was angry, which made Shang Tsung a little curious. Why is this person's voice so familiar? Impossible, that is dead. That can't be alive, her sanity has been destroyed by them, she can't be like a normal person, that can only be a fool for the rest of her life. Hee, it seems that the nobleman forgets things a lot, and it's only been a while before he forgets. Xianzhong is the person I want to protect, if you abduct him at will, I will be angry. If you want others to know you have to do nothing, you should go back and repent, maybe someone will look for you in the middle of the night. Everything that Zhang Rin has now was given by the original owner. It was the original owner's parents who paved the way for Zhang Rin. Who knows that in the end, Zhang Rin calculated their daughter and let their daughter freeze to death in the wilderness. Shang Ling's resentment is very heavy, which also makes her able to board successfully. Impossible, impossible, that is dead, that can't be alive, stop talking nonsense. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The villain is always disobedient. 6. She doesn't care whether this person is really crazy or fake, she has achieved her goal, let this person live a little more painful, so that the original owner's resentment can be reduced, and she can relieve the original owner. Time to go. Bump. She stepped forward, and the chains broke quickly, and she fell weakly to the ground. This one. Can this powerless villain really kill the hero? How does she feel that they got the wrong script? Let's go back. What about him? Do you want to help him? She smiled indifferently. Could the villain be the heart of Mary? No. Tonight, you are in trouble. If you want to be safe and sound, I advise you to tell that person that you will die if you do many wrongdoings. You have the eyes of heaven. If you don't do things for heaven, then disasters will come around him. On people. Cut, what you said is like a magic fortune teller, is it so effective? The villain followed Shang Ling and left. She didn't choose to heal the villain. The healing technique consumes a lot of spiritual power. Her spiritual power is used to maintain her status quo. It is also difficult to obtain spiritual power. She doesn't want to let herself fall into a desperate situation. Mansion. You don't ask. He raised his head with some hesitation, not sure why she kept saving him again and again, and she came to save him twice when his life was hanging by a thread. What? Ask who is that person, what am I, and why I was left in that place. Shang Ling's tone was indifferent. She didn't like to intervene too much in the plot, at most she followed the plot. Even if I don't show up this time, the villain will be rescued, but it's just dying and paralyzed. She just moved ahead of time, letting the villain's kindness be enshrined in her own name. What does your matter have to do with me? I just need to keep you alive, and the rest has nothing to do with me. I won't go tonight's action. You see, I am injured and it is difficult to move. My people only obey my orders. Oh, I see. After she finished speaking, she left. That night, she went to the National Teacher's Mansion alone, and kidnapped the fake man from the National Teacher's Mansion, Duoling. It's a big night, many people can't sleep at night, and the chickens and dogs are restless. When Shang Tsung heard the news and wanted to ask someone to question him, he found that the person had disappeared. Housekeeper, where is that person? Where is the person I brought back today? Why is it missing? Doesn't he live in this yard? The young lady has already left. Before leaving, she asked the servant to arrange for a pair of grandparents to live in the mansion. Damn it, how dare that woman! He thought that if he didn't go, the woman had no choice but to take Shang Ling away so easily. Shang Ling and Duoling are sisters, so I can't sit idly by. That woman is not a good person at first glance, and Shang Ling must have suffered a lot from that person. Master, what's the matter? Of course there is something to do, it's still a big deal. It was not easy for him to establish a relationship with the National Teacher's Mansion. Who knew that the unknown woman would abduct the daughter of the National Teacher's Mansion after changing hands? It's fine if she abducted her, but she also blamed herself. The national teacher would want to die on. Master. It's not good, it's not good. The national teacher's office is here. The slave said, and soon, people from the National Teacher's Mansion appeared. The National People's Congress of the National Teacher's Mansion doesn't sleep at night, come to our mansion to sing opera. He is pretending to be confused now, because no one knows anyway, so just deny it. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The villain is always disobedient. 7. Singing is not enough, we just came to search, someone saw a thief entering your mansion. The people who came were the guards of the National Teacher's Mansion. Their eldest lady was missing. The last witness said that they saw the bandit come into the mansion, so they sent people to seal the surrounding area. Bold. Shang Mansion has always been aloof from the world. Whenever you get involved with thieves, you are making a false accusation. Xianyu's housekeeper scolded, and all of his subordinates also appeared to confront each other. Don't be offended, my lord, we are also impatient because the eldest lady is missing, and we don't intend to offend you. The steward of the National Teacher's Mansion stepped forward and said. The national teacher prayed for the country, and could not leave the sacrificial altar for the rest of his life. The wife of the national teacher also accompanied the Buddha lamp with green silk, worshipping Buddha and chanting scriptures all day long. Missy is the jewel in the palm of their national teacher's mansion, and they don't want to embarrass the national teacher. Your gentleman is open and frank. Since you are all so suspicious, then it doesn't matter if I let you search it. If you find it, if you can't find me, I will send someone to accompany you to look for it. Who knows how to pretend to be a good person? Master National Teacher is here. While preparing to search, someone heard a voice. National Division. The person in front of him was wearing plain white clothes, and his head was already full of white hair at a young age. Master of the State Teacher, someone asked me to tell the State Teacher a word, but I don't know that person, but he saw that my life is not long, so he said a few more words. Retire first. The servants left quickly, leaving only Shang Yu and the national teacher. Now you can talk. If you do many unrighteous actions, you will kill yourself. You have the eyes of the heavens. If you don't do things for the heavens, then the disaster will come to the people around you. Who is that man? The always calm national teacher grabbed Shang Tuan's neck and shouted, his eyes widened when he heard these words. Impossible. No one knows that he delayed the dragon's pulse, no one. I don't know who that person is. I said before that person just said a few more words because he saw my short life. If anyone else knows what you said today, I will cut you to pieces. The national teacher gritted his teeth and said, he never imagined that his flawless scheme had already been known, and who exactly was that person. About this matter, he did not tell anyone, including his wife and children. Whether Shang Ling is with you? No, I was kidnapped today, and I just came back now. Not long after I came back, you led someone into my mansion. You can clearly see the new injuries on my body. Kidnapped? By whom? Why didn't anyone go to the Yamen to report the case? I don't know, I don't know. After I was beaten, I was abandoned at the door of my house. The son of the Shang mansion, Shang Tuan, has always been aloof from the world, because everyone knows that he is short-lived, and no one will have trouble with a dying person. Who is coming so aggressively this time? Even a short-lived ghost will not be spared. The national teacher went out with a serious face. He walked up to the butler, his voice was a bit cool. Old Lin, let people evacuate and return home. What about Missy? Look at her good fortune, she may not be human this time, go back. His daughter, after all, he was the one who killed her. He originally thought that his daughter would be safe if he didn't care about it all the time. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The villain is always disobedient. 8. The other side. Dark place. Shang Ling threw the man in front of the female ghost, and the woman looked at it with a firm face, and said with hatred, Benefactor, this is the person who persecuted the slave family, and the slave family has never touched that pill. Medicine, the servant is wronged. Are you sure it's this person? Shang Ling smiled, with a bit of chill, and quickly tore off the man's human skin mask, which frightened the woman. Look, are you sure now? Nujia. I don't know anymore. She was surprised and stammered, a little unsure if this person hurt her, because she only remembered one face. She wanted to keep entering the mansion, but she was burned by the golden light around the mansion before entering. Now she is not sure who the person who killed her is. Please also inform the benefactor. Your enemy is this person, but the name may not be correct. Take a closer look and see who this person is. Shang Ling lazily raised her head, her gaze fell on the face of the person in front of her. Isn't this Miss Shang Ling's best friend, Miss Duo Ling? Not long ago, Miss Duo Ling fell ill and was taken care of by Miss Shang Ling, but what's going on here? Why did Miss Duo Ling pretend to be Miss Shang Ling? Girlfriend. Have you figured out how to take revenge? After the revenge, leave the world. The departure of the last person has already given her a little more blessings, and she doesn't know when she will be able to accumulate more than 100,000 blessing points. My family wants to use the cold water over there to wake her up, please trouble your benefactor. Apart from this, is there anything else? My family is dead, and there is no one to miss when I was alive. I am just angry that this person made my family take the blame. After I troubled my benefactor to pour cold water on her, I threw her in the snow to freeze for a few days. Okay, I won't hurt my life, but this punishment is still okay. She was taken aback, she didn't expect this request to be so simple. The girl picked up the wooden bucket, and poured the cold water inside directly on Duoling's body. Wow! Duoling slapped him and cursed, "Ah, who did it? I don't want to live anymore. Miss Ben will beat him to death with sticks. What is this place?" She woke up, opened her eyes, and found herself in an unfamiliar environment. "Who are you? You bitch, you send me back. I'm from the National Teacher's Mansion, otherwise I'll let my father copy your house. This is the wilderness here. There are often wolves walking around outside. If you make your voice louder, you might provoke them. Old man, save me quickly, I have no strength now. I need Shangling's spiritual power. It's okay to save you, but you must agree to my previous request. I want to reshape the golden body." "Okay, I promise you. Watch out." Duoling suddenly shot at Shangling. She has the cultivation of the original owner. The girl hurriedly turned over to avoid it, and the spiritual power punched out a deep hole. "Duoling! What? Did you arrest the wrong person? I am Shangling, the daughter of the National Teacher's Mansion. The person you want to arrest is in the Union." She was taken aback when she heard her name, but quickly calmed down. Her current identity is Shangling, the daughter of the national teacher, and Duoling would never admit her identity. "It seems that the old man detoxified you. Pretending to be a ghost, who the are you?" She was startled, and she felt murderous intent towards the masked man in front of her, trying to silence her. Shangling began to struggle a bit. It seemed that without spiritual power, fighting alone was a disadvantage for her. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The villain is always disobedient. 9. You are not small, you dare to pretend to be a ghost in front of me with this little ability. I want to take off your mask and see your true face. Duoling caught the power of the old man inside Goldfinger, and was aggressive towards Shangling, and his moves were ruthless, which made Duoling a little overwhelmed. "Hehe, with this little ability, you still want to take me away, and you don't even know who this lady is." Duoling made one move, and the move contained the spiritual power of the mainland's spiritual master. She looked at Shangling fiercely, wanting to cut the weeds and roots. She used the power in the golden finger, which was all the power of Shangling. All her cultivation for so many years was taken away by the golden finger, and now it is for her to use. Shangling retreated steadily, her complexion remained unchanged, as indifferent as ever, with the corners of her mouth raised, with a somewhat indifferent smile. "Is this the spiritual power of the mainland? It's fun, it's fun. Duoling, let me spare you today, but in the future, we will rest until we die." She was pushed back into the corner by the spiritual power, feeling the mysterious power of this virtual continent for the first time. She stood up, and calmly patted the dust on her clothes. "Damn, you want to run? Stop!" Shangling took the female ghost and left. She didn't realize that the power of this continent is so mysterious. Duoling wanted to catch up and kill people, but was stopped by the old man inside Goldfinger. "Don't chase after the poor. Senior, who is that person? Her moves are so strange. I can't tell which sect she is from." Shangling respected the old man in front of her very much, and the phantom of the old man appeared in front of her. "You are not that person's opponent. The strength I lent you can only last for a quarter of an hour. P.S. A quarter of an hour is equivalent to 15 minutes. The old man in front of him was over 60 years old, with grey hair, white clothes, and a big beard. He had a fairytale air. Then what to do? That person must know that I am not Shangling. If she makes it public, I will die a miserable death. Duoling was restless and her eyes were full of panic. If people in the national teacher's office knew about this, she would die a miserable death. The national teacher's mansion is her safe haven. She has done a lot of evil, and those people dare not say anything because of the face of the national teacher's mansion. If I knew it earlier, I should have killed the killer. What are you afraid of? Don't you still have this old man? Where is the ruthlessness that you used to kill Shang Ling? Old man, do you think I can change my life against this guy? She was reading a novel, read it, and then transmigrated into the book. When she arrived, she found that she was the vicious female supporting role in the book, and she couldn't survive the finale. She has read the script, and she knows that her role is a female supporting role. If she wants to survive and go home, she must change her life against this guy, take away everything from the heroine, and turn herself into the heroine. Haven't you changed it now? You see, everything in the national teacher's mansion is yours, and isn't the male lead also yours? What are you unwilling to do? Isn't the heroine dead? What are you worried about? The old man has some dislike for the panic-stricken person in front of him, he is greedy, and he is afraid of this and that. The old man in front of him does not recognize the Lord. He will help whoever holds his token. There is no distinction between good and evil. That's right, I was thinking too much. The heroine was sent to the wilderness by me. The man in black told me a few days ago that she had been frozen to death. Thinking of this, she breathed a sigh of relief. She followed the plot and went back safe and sound. Go back and find someone to fix your human skin mask a little bit, so that you don't reveal your secrets. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The villain is always disobedient. 10. Understood. She has some worries in her heart, needless to say by the old man, she will also tighten the human skin mask a little bit, the other side. Shang Ling was wounded and left, hiding in a corner to heal his injuries. Ahem. She was careless this time, and she didn't expect that Duoling's cultivation base was so high. After this, she had to speed up her cultivation. Benefactor, are you all right? The ghost next to him was a little worried. Shang Ling asked. She was grateful. If it wasn't for the benefactor in front of her, she still wouldn't know that her enemy was someone else. Are there any evil spirits around here? She raised her head, shook her head, and asked the woman in front of her. Does evil? Yes, he did many evil things during his lifetime. She now needs to act on behalf of the heavens. Duoling has now successfully replaced the heroine, and has obtained the halo of the protagonist. Through this cultivation base, she can see that she has to speed up her cultivation. Yes, there are many murderous ghosts in the dungeon. They like the dark and humid environment the most. I accidentally went there last time and was almost swallowed. You can ask the little prince to take you in. He also has some rights here. It is normal to go to the dungeon. It is good. The next day, Shang Ling rushed back to the mansion late at night. In the study room, Shang Yu sensed movement, stood up hurriedly and yelled at the corner. Who? It's me. She came out with an indifferent expression on her face, and her tone was like an order, take me to the dungeon. Dungeon, you want to surrender? You are quite self-aware, knowing that you are hurting the world. He said hurriedly again, let's go, I will take you there now. Without this person, he is much more at ease. Shut up, you're noisy, you just need to take me to the dungeon. Shang Ling said coldly, this man is a real showman, no wonder he ended up with no bones left. In the dungeon, he walked around with Shang Ling, aimlessly. No, it attracted the attention of a policeman. Little prince, why are you here today? Are you here to help interrogate the prisoner? Yes, yes, this king is here to interrogate the criminal. He said this, which made people suspicious. Who is the one behind? His gaze rested on Shang Ling's body, and he had some doubts about this strange face. Servant, haven't you seen it? What's the matter, can't this king even take a servant with him? That's not true, the slave is just worried that someone will take the opportunity to slip away. Why are you slipping away? Even a fly can't fly out of the dungeon. These prisoners are hard to fly. What are you afraid of? If something goes wrong, I will take care of it. Get out of the way, this king is walking around here. Don't be an eyesore if you have nothing to do. If you have time to talk nonsense with this king, it's better to catch the wanted criminal or interrogate the criminal. The young man's tone was particularly contemptuous. He didn't like dungeons at all. He used to come often because he was entrusted to take care of him, but now he was threatened when he came. The aunt at the back didn't know that the nerve was wrong, so she insisted on going to the dungeon. The little prince is still the same, his temper is really bad, and it is because of his short life. The policeman knew that he couldn't make sense, so he turned his head and left. Go to the front, the innermost side. Shang Ling spoke in a cold voice, and as she lowered her voice as much as possible, a Bianhua pattern appeared on her wrist, faintly visible. The people in the surrounding prisons all stared blankly, either tortured or mentally tortured by the surrounding prisoners. End of this chapter.